ब्रह्मानन्दात्मने नमः। ब्रह्मानन्दात्मने नमः। वेदोदधिं समुन्मथ्य ज्ञानरत्नं समुद्रितं येन तस्मै वसिष्ठाय गुरवे नमः। वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। सद्गुरु भगवान की जय। सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। शब्द ब्रह्म की जय। सरस्वती महारानी की जय। योग वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। हरि ओम। We are discussing Yoga Vasishtha second half and Nirvana Prakarana. Nirvana Prakarana second half. 83rd chapter, wherein what we are discussing? What is the subject? What is the vision of a realized soul? How does a wise man see everything what we see as the world? How does he see on the world? So with all these examples, this analytical discussions, and with logic, with examples, everything we have come up to this चित्ती के स्वयं चैत्य स्वरूप होने के कारण कहीं कोई कुछ भी नहीं चेतता है, यानी चिंतन का विषय नहीं बनाता है, चित्ती नहीं बनाता है। इसीलिए हे श्री रामचंद्र जी, यह निश्चित है कि चैत्य मतलब दुनिया और चेतन क्रिया न होने से चित्तता भी कोई नहीं है, अर्थात चित्ती से भिन्न न तो चैत्य माया के भिन्न कोई दुनिया नहीं है, न चेतना क्रिया भी है, एकमात्र ही अवशिष्ट है। So we were discussing on the supreme power, the creative power which has created this creation, that is the power of the Absolute. Everything has its nature. If a name with a form is there, the object will have its nature. Every object has its nature. Nature means the qualities or the description of its movements, that is called qualities, and its action and reaction, and everything is included. Quality means its nature. For example, just as the water has its nature of liquidity. Without liquidity, there cannot be any water. They are one and the same, but yet in the relative level, when we see the water or taste or we have any relation with transaction with water, then we deal with the liquidity of water. Snow is not water, that's how it has taken another name, it is solidified liquid, and so on. But water means it has to be liquid. Of course, that snow has taken this modified or transformed form by the water. Water's presence is there, but it is not called water unless until it becomes liquid. It cannot be water. Water becomes vapor, water becomes humidity in the air, water becomes clouds, water becomes everything, not only snow. It in the process of long time, the same hydrogen and oxygen, which is so subtle, it becomes water. But hydrogen and oxygen is not liquid. It is gas. And the same water becomes, in long run, it becomes diamond also. When it is suppressed with great pressure, it becomes charcoal. Charcoal becomes diamond in long period of time. Time passes and same water, same oxygen, which is so subtle, which is invisible to physical eyes, that becomes so solid, harder than iron also. It coats the iron. So solidified diamond. It is the outcome of so subtle oxygen and hydrogen gas. In a particular ratio, when they get together, mix up, then it becomes water, subtle particles, and then those particles, when become gross, it takes the name of water, liquid form. So, water has the quality or nature of liquidity which is unseparable. Just as fire, we discussed so many times, fire has its nature of light and temperature or heat. If these two qualities are taken away from fire, there is no fire. Quality itself forms the object, which is inseparable from the object. But we cannot relate with the fire, but we can deal with its nature. Light we can use, and we can use the temperature also, heat also, as per the need. So in this way, the nature is created. The totality of all the forms creates its nature, that is called universal nature. And that is nothing but the quality only. And that quality becomes and it belongs to the universal being, that is creator. So creator without creative power is not at all seen as creator. There is no creator without creating power. That is called creating power, which are three in one, that belongs to the absolute. Absolute has the nature of creativity, knowledge, and will, willpower. Willpower, creative power, and knowledge power, these three in one. They are called three qualities, sattva, rajas, tamas, and when they take some forms, then that becomes the universal nature, and when they personify, then they become three deities, creator and destroyer and the protector, three powers. When they personified, then they are called the creator Brahma, the protector Vishnu, and the destroyer, as you name it, Shiv, Shankar, or Mahadev, or as you name. The name has got also different names, different meanings according to its nature. How does a name performs, accordingly it will have the meaning of it. Name is given according to the nature. So, this is how the nature is, which is a relative power, a changing power. Power means it has to change, go on changing. That is known as, in different views from different angles, it is taken as three qualities. It is taken as action and reaction. It is taken as changing process of the nature. Without all these, there is no nature. And that process also, when personified, it is called jiva, the being, because it becomes something. So it becomes a being. Being means a personified object, and that will have some movement. Some movement. Personification is also a process. So according to that process, it is not steady, it is movable. That's how all these beings, and they are named according to the quality of movement, how it moves. Name is given how? नामकरण कैसे किया जाता है? गुण और कर्म के अनुसार, according to its nature and action. How does it act? How does it react? Accordingly, the name is given to the object. Actually speaking, the object has no name. When it moves, it will have the name. And according to the name, it will be related with, it will be used. So, this is how the names and forms have the name. When the name is related to some form, then only the form is visible or usable or we have some relation with the form, and then name has got meaning when it relates, when it has the relation with the form, then only we understand the meaning of the name and we use the object accordingly. Its a value according to use. So meaning means the literal meaning also, and its a value. Value is given according to use. Use means relationship. How do you relate with the object? That is its value. In this way, nature is, means nature is all these together. Names, forms, its activities, its qualities, everything together. So, nature means all the innumerable forms and names of the creation. All the creatures, they are created by the creative power. Without that, there is no creator. And without the of golden rock, how it appeared and how it is going to disappear. After that disappearance, how the remnants Vasistha saw in the subtle forms of the time god and the power of time god, that is named as Kala Bhairav and Mahakali, Maharatri, the dark night of the soul, the gap in between two creations. That gap is unseen, but it has got all the impressions of the whole creation which is dissolved. Its impressions are in very subtle form. They are there in that night form. That is called Kalaratri. The Mahakali, the great time power, and it is held by someone. There should be effect, then their effect will have some cause. If cause is seen, then it is cause. It is called cause only when it has some effect. Both cause and effects are interrelated and they are repeated again and again. The cause has some effect. That effect becomes cause for another effect. In this way, the secret cycle of the nature goes on. It goes on changing in a cycle. It repeats again and again. That shows if the creation is there, creation has to repeat again and again. When the repetition is there, there will be a demarcating line between two creations. That demarcating line is a time-space. So it is the juncture between the two. Sandhya we say. The gap between the two. And that gap, though we have seen, it has two aspects. One is holder, another is hold. Whatever is hold, that goes on changing. That is, in the Kalratri, it is the impressions of the dissolved matters, and that remains in the juncture, that is called Rati, the night, the darkness which is not seen, that is in the form of seed. Seed has the future trees within it, past trees, everything is there in the form of impression, in subtle form, very, very subtle most state, and that is there, it cannot be said to be absent. That is the power which is stable. When it acts only, that is seen, and it is called power. Germinating power, creating power is there in the seed. And so that Kalrati, the darkness, dark night, is known as the seed for another creation. When the time comes, then it germinates, the seed germinates. When the favorable conditions are available, then the seed germinates, and that is known as the creative power. It goes on changing, and the same seed is forgotten and disappeared, giving rise to the further actions, that is slowly a development, a change, a process of unfolding itself, and that becomes the future tree. And this is how the seed has come from the past tree. When there is a tree, it has to have its progenies. That means one becomes many. This is the process of the creation. In the very beginning, it starts with this process. I am one, let me be many. Eko ham bahusyama. This is how the absolute, which is not visible, which has got no qualities, it becomes qualitative only when qualities are seen, or else it is unqualified. Unqualified truth is known as pure consciousness, where there is no possibility of the two. It is absolute singularity, which is known as Advaita. There is no question of any possibility of two. So how it has the power, creative knowledge, and all these creative knowledge, power, and active action, Ichha Shakti, willpower. All these three are there in invisible form and inactive form. Of course, we understand when the seed is given as an example, but everywhere everybody says, you also said, the absolute has got no qualities. It is qualityless. Then only it will be absolutely pure, absolutely transparent, absolutely perfect. If there is creative power, then action and reaction, there is change. So the past which has gone, it creates a gap. The present replaces the gap by the welcoming of future. Time goes on in this way, changing, and everything changes. There will be gap between the two, and that gap is the need to be fulfilled. That's how everybody has the Ichha Shakti, willpower, and it is inherited from the very beginning. Nobody can get out of it. As long as you have a form, you have a name, you have to act. Nahi kasched kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krit. Without creating, without acting, nobody can remain without actions for even for a moment. You have been, so you are a being, so you have to act. And at the same time, all our scriptures say, don't act. Naiskar siddhi. Be stand still. Our aim and object of life is, everybody's life is eternal, uninterrupted happiness, that is known as bliss. And everybody's aim is that only. Of course, we don't get it. We try to get it in the names and forms of the world creation, and we get it, no doubt, for a moment, which is changeable. The happiness changes into sorrows, and sorrows change into happiness. So this goes on in the creation, whereas this is inherited from the Absolute, but there is no possibility of its presence in the Absolute. How all the contradiction you yourself place before us, how it is. So we can say, though there is no second, there is no qualities, but if you say there is something, if at all you say, if at all you claim there is something which we don't see, just as atoms you don't see by the physical eyes, but by some subtle eyes, which we call how do you see the atoms? By a microscope, very powerful microscope. That is subtle eye. Subtle eye. So thereby we can see the atoms, but the Absolute is understood as subtler than the subtlemost. Anuranyan, Mahatmamayan, of course, we'll see it afterwards. But subtler than the subtlemost, so how it can have any movement or action and reaction in it, which is called the starting of the nature, it cannot have. But we see it, how that we have discussed many a time, yet we have to clarify it. We have seen up to atom. Atom is not stable. Atom is always a moving object. Atom has got center, and it's a neutron, and proton, electron, and it is always active. That's how one atom gets connected and accompanied, or we can say they get together also by its movement only. or else it cannot be. Two atoms cannot become a molecule. In this way, when we contact with the sense object for a moment, that moment is a union, nothing but union with the object. Two object gets contact. By touch. When you touch something, you have the contact, you have the oneness with the object for a moment. That is becoming oneness, one with the object. That is called contact. It is momentary, no doubt. But for a moment you have oneness with the object. That goes on changing in the nature, but when one becomes one with the Absolute, it becomes united forever. There is no chance of returning. Jadagatva nivartante tadham paramam mama. There is no question of return. That is the abode of Absolute. So that is there, we don't bring it now because creation is dissolved and nature is not acting now. What is going to dissolve in the Absolute? How it started, then only it will end. What is the starting point? If there is no starting, then how can there be an end? In this way, when we go on analyzing the facts and figures of the creation nature, then we have to accept something which is not there. The nature which is seen in the Absolute is not there, and that is called the Absolute nature, which is not there, but yet it is imagined. That is called imagination also, imaginary power. It is not real willpower, subtler than the willpower. All these creative will and knowledge, all these are active, then only it is understood. When they are inactive, just as the seed holds all the past and future creations of it within it in a dormant form, which is not visible, but yet it is there. Similarly, in the Absolute Truth, because it is absolutely transparent, absolutely pure, it has the nature of doubts. Those doubts, how does it look? Because we cannot see by our senses, because we cannot imagine of it also. But yet we have to accept, because all these projected names and forms we see and we deal with it, we cannot negate it. It has some existence. It does exist. Okay, my dear, if you come to the existence of all these nature, names with forms, then take the existence, not the names and forms. Okay? Come to existence. So whatever exists, existence only is approved when there is possibility of non-existence. Why? Because the formula says everything has opposition. The whole creation is nothing but pairs of opposites. So if you say exist, then it will not exist. Opposites are there. Can you have a coin without tail, with only head, or without head, only tail? Can you have? If one is there, it will have opposites. Everywhere we see in the nature, everything has its opposite. So it is beyond nature, we say. Beyond nature, but you say, you imagine something, so it will have opposite also. If you talk, whatever you say, every word has its opposite meaning also. Everything has its opposite. Without that, there is no expression, there is no formation, there is no being. We are beings. We try to understand the Absolute and its nature. That understanding is also a process. If you don't try to understand, keep quiet, that quiescence is your real being, which is not a being. That is your own self. But we cannot remain for a moment without actions. We have to question, we have to understand. That is our business. Without understanding, how can we accept? This is what all the scriptures say. Go on analyzing whatever you have heard or seen. Heard means you have seen, means by your senses. Whatever is related, contacted with the senses, it will have its meaning and its use. You are in that now as a body, as a person, and as your natures will be there. So when you are acting, the final action is try to understand the Absolute. That is absolute stability which we have to attain. So what we see, the stability only can be unstable. There can be waves. The what we can say, the wave means the spandan, the vibration, means, in other words, unsteady position of something. And what is that something? That was stable. Then only there it can be unstable. So when you are starting to understand something, and you are trying to understand the absolute equilibrium, then you are trying to make it unstable. So that unstable process is called creative process. And that starts with first one and then many. Aham, the identification of one, and that is called I, the ID card of the one. Then it appears as one I, and that cannot be quiet. It has to be many. Eko ham, I am one. The identity and its identification as I. And it cannot keep quiet, so it has to go on changing into many. That's how we start understanding, or else you don't understand, keep quiet. That quietness itself is the truth. When it starts moving, that is called the creative power. I am one, let me be many. You have to. There is no other go. So in this way, when we try to understand the Absolute, we have to be one with it. And that process is called creative process and dissolution process. And in between what is there? How does the process start? It starts with action and reaction, which is called a process. That is called projection. One disappears, the other appears. Then only when you count two, do you count simultaneously? 1, 2. You cannot. You have to forget one, then only you have to count two. When you give up one, then you can accept the other. So in this way, when we go on contemplating, analyzing with logic, subtle logic, that's how, if at all we understand, we try to understand ourselves, which is absolute steadiness, that process is this only. A process starts and it ends with nothing. That nothing is known as shunya or emptiness, where everything is neglected, negated and disappeared. That is called dissolution. And creative power is the starting and the whole process. When it ends in the starting point, then there is no creation. Dissolved. That is called pralaya. So in this way, when we keep all these ideas on our front, then the creation started with the Creator, Brahma, and its power, the Saraswati, the creative power, and it is protected by him in the form of Vishnu, protective power, and it dissolves it with the same dissolving power which is called Param Shiv, the Mahakal, Maharudra, and its power is known as the Mahakali, power of the time, which changes everything. But now the time and its power, they have become one. So how do they exist? They exist in the form of absolute impressions, which is not visible. That's how it is called darkness. And when becomes visible, it becomes creation again. So it has to go on again and again. This is how creation and dissolution and the time god and its power, Mahakali, and the Mahakali is known as the Rudra, means the absolute terrific personality, because it is dissolving, ending everything. It has to be terrific. That's how it is called Mahabhairav, Kala Bhairav. Bhairav, of course, terrific sound, which is personified. That is called Kala Bhairav. Why there is sound? Because sound is the starting point of the creation. So when it dissolves, when you start creating, means building a building, at the time of building, you will not have any much sound. Of course, there will be little sound. But creating is not sound. It doesn't produce much sound. Of course, sound, without sound there is no creation. Sound is always there. But when we dissolve it, when we demolish the building, how much sound you get, isn't it? So in this way, when the creation is dissolved, at that time there will be terrific sound, which creates a fear in us. Terrific. Terrific sound is known as Kala Bhairav. It has to be Bhairav. Bhairav means terrific sound. And creative, dissolving power also will be there, Mahakali. So in this way, in imaginary subtle form way, Vasistha ji described, in the end remained our Mahakal and Mahakali. So the question starts, how do the wise men look at this? How do they understand it? Looking at means, how do they relate with it? How do they understand it? But before going to it, we have another doubt which we have not yet discussed, but in the past we have discussed many times. The absolute transparent, absolute spotless, quality-less, transparent, perfect truth, how can it have any spots, doubts, or imaginations, or any power which you call creative power, or willpower, or knowledge power? How can it have? It cannot have. If it is seen, then only it will be seen as three aspects of one only. Of course, that we agree. But how it is possible there? Impossible is possible there. You see, if we go by logic, when it is absolute one, how does it understood? There is no question of understanding, because it is. So, according to our subtle analysis, if at all one will be there, it has to be all-pervading. All means infinite. It will be present at all conditions, at all time and space and everywhere. It has to be all-pervading. It has to be. Then only it can be only one. If it is not, then second will start. So it has to be all-pervading. So when it is all-pervading, then it has to know itself. That means all-knowing. All-knowing. Wherever it is, it must know it. Just as in our body, if I is all-pervading in the body, the whole body, I know my body fully in and out. Anywhere a small ant has just started crawling over and we feel it everywhere, anywhere in the body. How do you know it? Because you are there. You see it, you feel it. That's how all pervasiveness has the other quality, has to harm. It has to harm. It should harm. It ought to harm the knowledge of all pervasiveness. I am present everywhere. And that knowledge is called all omnisciency. It has to know its presence everywhere. It has to have its domination over everywhere. That is called almighty. It has to be. Then only it can be all pervasive. If one is there without two, then it has to have all these qualities, which is qualityless. As when we discuss over it, there is no discussion. It is. But when we try to talk something over it, then we are bound to talk in this way. There is no other way of talking over the absolute. It should be one. It should be without any second. It should be, then it should be all pervading, all knowing and all dominating. So these three qualities to be there, it is a must. Omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent. These three qualities have to be there. So we have started giving quality to the qualityless. So this is how the absolute can be known, or else it is unknown, unseen. And we cannot say, we cannot have any proof for it. We have to say it is. Then only it will exist. Existence is a quality of itself, of itself. In this way, the all-pervading truth, which is qualityless, when you want to talk on it, you have to talk only by this way. There is no other go. There is no other nanya pantha vidyate ayanaya. There is no other go. Everybody has to take this track. When we climb the mountain, where do we reach? The absolute climax. That is only one point, one dot. The absolute climax will be only one dot. Can you reach that dot before crawling around it? Can you? Somehow or other you have to be around the point. Then only you can step at the point. That round, that circles just related to that point means the first and last, the expression of that one point is like this only. You have to step on that. Then only you can reach that point. Climax will be only one dot. Don't you agree? Can you say no? How do you see the needle? How do you see the last point of a knife, a sword? It will be only one point, one dot. This is how we can discuss on the absolute, which is beyond all discussions, beyond all language, beyond all senses, beyond causation. It is unconditional. So you put conditions. So we have to go in this way. And that understanding or expressing or accepting, all these are processes only. So we have to go by this way, absolute true track. Now we understand the absolute, so it will be one. It will have these three qualities which are not real because we want, so it will have. If you don't want, there is no qualities. No qualities. And absolute equilibrium state. There is no understanding, there is no being or becoming, there is no union there, there is no separation there, no creation, no dissolution, no words, no understanding. If you can keep quiet, no discussion. But alas, we cannot keep quiet. That is the nature's nature. So now we have to say that nature is there and absolutely it is not there, it is to be there in a steady position. That is called the universal chitta, universal seed, adi bija akele. One seed, which is the primordial seed, which creates many seeds only. When one seed becomes a tree, it holds many fruits and many seeds are out of those fruits. This way only one becomes many, and this process is called creation. Clear or any doubt? This is Sampurna. वो कहाँ, before it he said, चित्ती के स्वयं चैत्य स्वरूप होने के कारण, because the power is visible. Visible means it reactive. The supreme power, it starts reacting. So the reaction, the result of reaction is called action, action and reaction. Reaction becomes action, action becomes again reaction. This is how we know karma, karma phal. Action has reaction, it will have opposite reaction. That means the action when becomes reaction, reaction again becomes action for another reaction. That we express as cause and effect. And that also is known as the process. It goes on in a cycle. Sansar chakra, the cycle of the creation. Everything repeats again and again. And that's how Chitti, the absolute power itself takes a form, and because of this, यही कारण कहीं कोई कुछ भी नहीं चेतता. This is because of our ignorance and not knowing anything. There is no I or we. There is no I or we. There is only a process. Everything changes, and action and reaction and cause and effect, that is called the creative process, and that is the creation. Wherein all of us, all the multiple I's. So, what happens? This is the cause. You cannot understand anything. What you understand, that changes. And that understanding in other language, from other view, other angle of vision, we say it is knowledge, that understanding. And that knowledge also is not absolute knowledge, unchanging knowledge. That knowledge changes. That's how we call it relative knowledge or informative knowledge, symbolic knowledge, which is obtained by contact of two with each other. That is stated in Gita again and again. We discuss it. Matras parsastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkadaha. When the units of our senses of knowledge, units, 5 units, which starts with and takes the medium of the 5 senses, particular unit goes out through the particular sense, just as seeing unit goes through the eyes, physical eyes, and it gets contact with a form, that is called seeing. The contact of willpower, which is nothing but the mind. That mind thought, one thought in the form of unit, it wants to, unit means one thought, becomes, it is in the process, it wants to become many. So it has to go through the eyes and it has to contact with the form. Eye can see the forms. Similarly, the ears can hear the contact the sound. In this way, according to the nature of the thoughts, it will have 5 nature only. Sabda, Sparsha, Rup, Rasa, Gandha, which are visible by 5 senses, eyes, ears and nose, etc. And they contact the forms, sound, touch, and the smell and the taste. This is how we have contact with the outer objects of the senses, and we get some information how it is for a moment only. That's how our information by contact, whether it is uh, cold or hot, whether it is pleasant or painful, sukha dukha daha, sitoshna, all these qualities of the object we get by some information, by the contact of the senses for a moment only, not for not for a long time, because senses are so turbulent, they have to go on changing, because the mind is restless, so the senses are restless, and it is in the process is very restless. It wants to understand the whole world. And this is how we get the understanding, which is nothing but the contact with the sense objects, and that is nothing but temporary informations only. And that is what we know as our knowledge. So your knowledge is good for nothing, useless, which is subject to change every moment. That's how it is known as unstable, informative, symbolic knowledge, which is not reliable. Take it for absolute grant. Above it there is no knowledge. You have no knowledge of the world or God. Nothing, no knowledge of any kind. But there is some knowledge above it, which is not expressible, which is not expressed by the language, by your expression. Expression is a process, so you have to understand it, but you cannot express. What have you understood? It is called experienced. Experienced, which is unexpressible. That is real knowledge, and that is called realization. And if you have that type of knowledge of one, that includes everything. The real knowledge of one has the knowledge of all. That is how this saying goes, Jat Brahmande Tat Pindande. Your being is nothing but a model of the whole totality. Do you get it? Your model, your identity is nothing but a part and parcel, a model, small model of the whole totality, whole creation. So if you can understand yourself, you can understand the whole universe. But alas, we don't try to understand ourselves. We try to always understand others. The whole world. That is the pitiest situation. We don't want to understand ourselves, don't want to know who am I. That's how all these great people, they advise, inquire who am I, know thyself. That is enough. You need not know others. The atom is the minimum most identity of the whole universe. Whatever is there in the atom, that is there in the cosmos. Cosmos is expressed or starts expressing starting from the atom, Anuranyan, and it becomes Mahatvomayan. boundless, endless eternity or infinity. This is how all our scriptures describe Anuranyan Mahatomayan, that absolute, if you want to start understand, then it is smaller than the smallest, and that is the model of starting point of expression of the absolute, which is greater than the greatest. Mahato Mayan. Now, keeping all these views before us, we can say, when I am there, I want to question and understand about the absolute. There should be, there will be, there ought to be some nature. That nature is my imagination. I want to understand it. My imagination starts, so that is known as Chidanu, Chitanu, the absolute atom of understanding power, knowledge power, that absolute existence. चित्ती अगर किसी कारण से कहीं भी कोई कुछ भी होता है, रूप लेता है, तो उसी को हम बोलेंगे संसार, जगत, और नहीं तो दुनिया नहीं है. और इसीलिए वो नॉलेज पावर itself works on. We don't understand anything as being in between the two. We are always in between the two. We are in the process. You are not the result of the process. Result is equilibrium, the absolute steadiness. Now, he says, this is the knowledge, a cause why you don't understand anything and why you are an ignorant person. What is your ignorance? What is your ignorance? Got the point? Are you realized soul or ignorant? You have to decide for yourself. Need not express it. This is the cause for our misunderstanding, which is otherwise known as Maya or Brahm or confusion or illusion. Understood now? Have you understood the misunderstanding? यह निश्चित है कि चैत्य और चेतना क्रिया के न होने से चेतयिता भी कोई नहीं है. When we reach at the consequence, there is no action of the power, because it is, when acting it is called power, when it is inactive it is not the power. So when we have understood it is inactive before acting, so it is not there. And what will you understand? Because it is not there. Absence is the form of the Maya. That's how we give the example sometimes. A boy is not there in the class, absent in the class. The father of the boy wanted to pass some information. When you come home after school, you bring all these, or somehow he wants to meet his boy. And when he goes to the class, asks the teacher, Where is my boy? No, he has not come to the class today. He is absent. So what happens after this information? The father goes to search for him. He has to meet his boy. Where will he search? Where he is absent, isn't it? Your search is in the absence only. You will not go to search for the boy when you see him present. Presence has got no search, no action. Isn't it? There is no question of knowing it or identifying it. All these process, all these questions are only when he is absent. Absence is known as the nature and presence is the truth. Understood now? This is how absence creates the question. Where is he? How is he? When is he? All these questions arise when you are in absent. You go to search for the present. Where is the present? Where is the boy? Go to the river bank. He may be catching some fishes. Go to the hospital. He may have had some headache or some diseases. He might have gone to the playground. He might have gone to his friend's house. He might have gone to see some new cinemas. He must have gone to his girlfriend's house. Many answers which are not right. He must have gone to sweet shops. He might have gone to fast food center, chow mein, momo. So where are you going to search for him? Wherever you go, you will go on searching for him where he is absent. The moment you see him, there is no search, no question. All the questions are solved. This is how the nature is absence and which creates all the questions, and there is no answer for the questions. All the questions are unanswered. When the truth is found, that is the answer for all the questions. No question over it, no search over it, no knowing it, no finding it. It is ever found, ever known, ever understood, ever, forever the answer is there in the presence. This is how the nature, and there is no nature, there is no absence when you see the presence. This is how the Gita says, Nabhavo vidyate satah, nasato vidyate bhavaha. There is no presence in absence, there is no absence in presence. When truth is found, there is no truth, which is we know as the nature. There is no nature. We cannot establish it. When absence is there, there is no nature. There is, when nature is there is no presence, but both are in one. How does it exist? Both exist in one. So, if we can apply our subtle logic, it can be. It can be. When the absence is followed, or scene. Scene means changeable picture. Absence is seen means in a process. Absence is seen means we are searching for the boy. Where is he present? That is called absence. It is in a series, changing series, and it is not the truth, but yet it comes. Without truth, it can only continue. It can go on. If the truth is there, absence is gone forever. So there is no continuation, there is no process, there is no searching, there is no finding. Truth is never discovered, nor it is invented, nothing is there. Neither it is absent nor it is present. Once you say it is present means you have qualified it. In this way we know the qualified truth or unqualified truth. We say it is Sabal Brahma and Niskal Brahma. Both way we see it. But that absolute vision is only indicative knowledge. It is not real knowledge. When the indication is indicated, then that is, there is no need of the indicator. So that is how we follow the highest words, the height of the expression, that is known as the climax of expression. And those words, they are only symbolical. They are not the real meaning of the symbol. It is symbolic. It indicates something by its expression. We also use everywhere in our daily life indicating something, and the indicated object is somewhere. The indication words are not the object. Say, I told you, have you seen our Biju who goes to market every day? I want to say something to bring from market. Please call him. Call the boy Biju. Biju is a word. It has some indicative meaning, a person. When the word is related with the person, then only Biju has got meaning. And that indicated person is some form. Understood? The name indicates something. So words are nothing but names. So it indicates the object. Whatever words you use, they are only valuable, meaningful, useful when the object is understood. This is how all the language, all the words which are formed by some sound, all the sound, the absolute primordial sound, one, pranam, onkar, and outcome of it, innumerable words and word meanings which are started from one, that is one syllable sound, onkar. Call it as you like, but it has to start from one point. We have named it as the pranav, so that is the indicated form, indication, and that is a form a sound, a indicator which indicates the absolute. When the absolute is indicated, there is no need of any indicators, no sound. That's how it is said. Paramatma is beyond, truth is beyond words and mind and expression. Then only when you see it, you are one with it, there is no I. It dissolves and you are not there and only the truth exists. By expression we have to take, say, union with, or becoming one with, or getting the goal, or becoming one with the goal. This is said in many different words: mukti, nirvana, or atma sakshatkar, ityadi, ityadi. Many words are used. Self-realization, union, or end of all desires, or oneness. In many ways it is expressed. So now we are discussing only one point, that is what remains in the end after complete dissolution. How is the form of, how do they exist, the Mahabhairav, Kala Bhairav, and Mahakali, the time power, in the end of the creation after dissolution, and how do they exist? And again they take the form of creation. How does it happen? And this process is seen by many great seers. How does that absolute seer see this creative process? This is the question. What will be his vision? His vision will be only darkness. Just as you see the night, so also the wise man see the night in the creation. There is no creation. What do you see in the night? Nothing, because of darkness. So that is narrated here as the Kalaratri, the darkness of the time, night of the time, night of the soul, we say. Anyway, whatever you say. So what is the vision of a seer, real seer, absolute seer? Nothing, darkness. The world is not there. And what is the vision of a worldly man, ignorant person? He sees there are so many seeds. It is a storehouse of innumerable kinds of seeds. 84 lakh joni, 84 types, 84 lakhs, millions of types of beings. It is not the exact number of the beings, it is the types of beings. Can you imagine how many names and forms will be there? It is unimaginable, beyond our imagination. So this is called the endless, eternal creation. It never ceases to be. And as we see, it appears, As we imagine, we have some contact with the imaginary names and forms, then it is called creation. When we draw our imagination power, there is no creation. It ends. And that is how the wise man look at the creation. They withdraw their mental thought process. They are ever steady, which is known as Sahaja Avastha, common state. There is no actions will be only by vision, not by himself. He does nothing. He is the absolute seer. Sarvadrashta, the witnessing power of the absolute. There is no world, there is no creation, nothing. This is the vision of the absolute seer, absolute witness. This is called the vision of the wise man. And he sees no creator, no creating power. There is no momentum of creation. There is no end of creation. Nothing is there. This is the final. Okay. एकमात्र मौन ही अवशिष्ट है. In the end, what we are calling as consequence or remnants of a cess, that is absolute silence. Absolute silence is the end of our all searches, all knowledge, our all expressions, our all researches, our all logic. How far you can go on. Your end of imaginations, your end of all claims, doubts and answers, your end of all alls. There is no one, there's how there is no all. Keep quiet. Quiescence is the absolute remnants. Silence is the absolute remnants, and that's how these seers, these realized souls, wise people, they never talk unless there is urgent cause for talking, expressing. That expression also is by the senses, by the mind, by the intellect, not by them. They see, they witness the expression. They are not the expressors. They don't say anything. They are ever established in the silence. That is in the heart. And their bodies, their senses, their mind, prana, ego. Ego also, they witness their own ego. There is no I. There is witness of the I. Identity is witnessed by them. Without identity, there is no possibility of any action. So that identity, I, whatever manner you may think, that is witnessed by the seer. This is how the world exists or doesn't exist, or the seers see, or the absolute vision of the world. So tomorrow we shall see, we shall end this, complete this chapter and go to 84th chapter. इस संपूर्ण बांगमय प्रपंच में, बांगमय प्रपंच, tomorrow we shall discuss, we have discussed a little on it. Bangmay, whatever discussion is there, whatever vision is there, whatever conclusion is there, it is not without words. It is full of words only, and words are nothing but expression. Whatever expression of your modified or solidified, formed imaginations, vibrations, mental vibrations, thoughts, that is only called, through the sound. Sound is not only audible sound. Expression is known as sound. And that expression can be by verbal expression, or it may be movement of body, which is known as action and which is otherwise known as body language. Body language. That's how whatever is expressed, that is through words only, Bangmay. And those words, they are created in 4 phases, just as the unseen ripples of the water starts when some imbalanced state, some vibration is created in superficial, steady water level. That is, of course, not visible by everybody. When it takes a visible form, wave is called wave, or else it is invisible ripples. Slowly it goes on becoming more vibrations. That is known as waves, or so on. Many names are there. So in this way, the sound starts from, sound means imbalanced state. It has to start from the balanced state. That is the core of your heart, Hridaya Gufa, the cave of your heart, which is ever steady, ever silent. When there starts any movement, any vibration, those are known as the power or prana, the vital energy, or it is named differently, or sound, or action or reaction starts there from. And in one direction, just as the vibration, they go on spreading, not only one level, in all around 360-degree directions. Not only 360-degree, 360-degree to the power 360 to the power infinity. In this way, it spreads all over from the center of, epicenter of the vibration. So, it has to go on spreading all over. Akhanda mandalakaram. So in that way, when it starts in one direction, it is called sound. Other direction, it is called prana. In other direction, it is named as different. So in direction one, if we call it sound, then it has got different phases. Most minute phases of those vibrations, and in 4 phases it is named para, pasyanti, madhyama or upanshu, and then vaikari, which is audible. All these sounds are like that. All these sounds. Whatever we hear, it is called audible, vaikari, audible sound, and it starts from absolute minute waves. So sound has got imaginarily, the great seers, they have given these 4 pages some names, but it is only vibrating process. So when we hear it, it is known as vaikari, it is audible sound. So the whole world is expressed by only words in different phases. Don't forget it. That's how Sabda Jal, the network of words, is understood or seen or named as world. Without expression, there is no word. So, sound is called expression, and that sound is in different subtlemost and grossmost ways, and this is how the whole world is this only, this process, sound process. इसलिए कहा कि सारा संसार वाग्मय है, the network of sound. If you know the secret of it, you can play with the world. You can play magic with the sound. One word will have infinite meanings. One word. That's how one word, the first word, Om, has got all the meanings of all the words. It is nothing but the first vibration of the absolute quiescence, silence. This is how the world is nothing but network of words. वांग्मय तो निर्विकल्पक समाधि ही सिद्धांत है, where the absolute reach means our query reaches there, where absolute silence, that is named as or reached by the yogis, they call it nirvikalp samadhi. Samadhi, the samata, the end of your intellectual process. Dhi, buddhi, medha, prajna, dharana, all these are different forms of your intellect, and when they enter into silence, that is called mauna, sant, absolute silence, और उसको कहते हैं निर्विकल्प, where there is no vibrations, no kalpana, no imagination, there is no chitta vritti at all. Vritti means all these vibrations, thought waves. No waves are seen there. So absolute quiescence, that is absolute silence, that is called samadhi, nirvikalp samadhi. And that is steadied or confirmed, or that becomes unmovable, you cannot get out of it. So that is called being established in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Just entering, you can come back. Entering to the other side of your LOC, line of control. If you go that side, if you have stepped some few steps that side, you may come back. But when you have gone to Rawalpindi or Karachi of Pakistan, you are caught there, you cannot return. Either you are put into jail, or you are killed, or you are hanged. Why you have come here without any permission? You are a spy. You will be shot down there. You cannot come back. That is how becoming one with the absolute silence forever. Jadgatvana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That absolute abode where from nobody goes back. That is my abode. So as far as this sound is concerned, the world is there. And world is nothing but, it is the composition of network of words, nothing else. Words, when solidify, they take a form. When they are half solidified, they are known as sound and they become names. When they have the contact with the form, same, made by same sound. Sabda Brahma, इसीलिए कहा गया, the sound is nothing but the expression of the absolute. इसी को हम जानते हैं, जिसे हमारे आधुनिक क्या कहते हैं उसको, अरे आधुनिक वैज्ञानिक लोग क्या कहते हैं, एक शब्द कुछ कहते हैं ना, the creation starts from Big Bang Theory, Big Bang Theory. We narrate it in different ways. When the egg of the universe hatches, it becomes two pieces. The inside being comes out, then it creates a sound. That is Big Bang Theory expressed by the philosophers. Same thing, it is called Om. In different way, different people, thoughtful people, they have expressed their thoughts of the climax, how one can think the best. Tomorrow we shall see further. Hari Om. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasisate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadguru Bhagavan ki jai, Satchidananda Bhagavan ki jai, Sabda Brahma ki jai, Saraswati Maharani ki jai, Yoga Vasistha Bhagavan ki jai.